message will be disturbing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow. A new national pride will stir our souls, lift our sights, and heal our divisions.
After the inauguration, the president signed a number of secret memorandums stating that he wanted the release of advanced technology, and a lot of this technology was involved in the space program, and he was very aware of it. We know that President Trump is aware of advanced technologies because his uncle was the one who went in and cleared out the safe of Tesla after his death. So we are fairly sure that President Trump grew up bouncing on his uncle's knee, hearing stories of free energy. Aside from the Secret Space Program Alliance, we have a different alliance. It is made up of all of these countries that have been fighting against this cabal for 50 years or so. It is also made up of various military groups that have broken away from the cabal, such as elements of the United States military intelligence groups have broken away and have been participating with a lot of other breakaway groups in trying to overthrow the cabal who took over the United States back in the 1960s, around 1963. This alliance, Earth Alliance, began to get more and more organized. And they got organized to a point to where some of them approached some generals and told them that they wanted to do an open coup in the United States. These generals decided they would make one last ditch attempt to get rid of the cabal legally. And that's when they approached Trump, allegedly, to run for president and allow them to legally get the country back, basically.
The Alliance is an international group. It is a confederacy. There are lots of different factions, some of which agree, some of which do not agree, about the only thing that they all have in common is they want to see this satanic, pedophile, elitist cabal come down in flames. They do not want these people trying to kill off most of the planet, trying to control all of this immensely high technology. The Alliance also consists of a surprising majority now of personnel in the U.S. military and in the U.S. intelligence community. So we're going to have to deal with the fact, sooner or later, and probably sooner, that not everybody in the government is bad. This is part of the psyop that was put out through movies and through media to get us to completely distrust all levels of society, all of the institutions, so that no one will ever be able to oppose these people. You're not going to do this by a bunch of keyboard warriors on the internet. They're not going to actually take the solid action that needs to be taken. What you do need to see is what we now are counting up in August 2018 as 45,000 sealed indictments. Now, this is on the official U.S. government court record. You can go to the pacer.gov website, which lists all of the lawsuits and all of the indictments filed in all of the different districts in America, and just count up the sealed indictments. The official count, the undisputed count, is 45,000, and the normal number for any given year is approximately 1,000. Now, this is a very, very big story that people are really not seeing exactly how awesome this is. Let's talk about what do you have to do to get a sealed indictment. Okay, a sealed indictment is the result of a secret grand jury proceeding. And what is a secret grand jury? A secret grand jury requires a panel of 12 to 23 U.S. citizens who are then given information and testimony from a prosecutor. The prosecutor is prosecuting a particular individual who is not invited to the proceedings, has no idea this is going on. And in legal terms, that's called ex parte. So he or she is testified against by the prosecutor, and then the jury has to decide if there is sufficient cause to prosecute this person with a crime, in which case they file a sealed indictment. The indictment stays off the record. You don't get to know the person's name until they unseal it, at which point the person is immediately arrested. And then they get to have the regular trial by jury with a judge. But you have to understand that the prosecutor is either a federal U.S. attorney, a county district attorney, or a state attorney general. These are big, big league players. This is not some attorney that you hire in Podunk, okay? These are major players creating major indictments. And the reason why they do it this way is that they're prosecuting organized crime. Typically, that's what it is. They're prosecuting a larger ring where they can't indict one person at a time. They have to get all their ducks in a row. They have to line it all up so that when they unseal the indictments, everybody gets arrested at once, and there's no ability for them to tip each other off that something happened so that the rats can flee off of the sinking ship. They all get nailed at once.
Let me run a tweet here from the president for a minute. He says, tonight we forcefully condemn the blatant corruption of the Democrat Party, the fake news media, and the rogue bureaucrats of the deep state. The only message these radicals will understand is a crushing defeat on November 3rd, 2020.
At some point, this whole thing is going to be exposed. And it's really bad, and it's really dangerous, and it's really sad for the media and the mainstream media. It really is. Sooner or later, it will be exposed. The policies of our political opponents have brought about only failure, destruction, and humiliation to our country. Look at what happened. New York Times will go out of business. All of them will be out of business. CNN will be out of business. They're almost out of business now if you look at their ratings.
When you hear the term deep state, what image does it conjure up? Is it a secret Illuminati that controls everything around us? So who are they? President Donald Trump has been claiming that there's a vast deep state conspiracy against him for years now, like when he said this last month in Kentucky.
We are finally putting America first. Yet the deep state and the failed ruling class are trying to resist any changes to their failed policies of the past. They believe it is their right to rule over you and to redistribute your wealth all around the world. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's why we ended the Paris Accord.
Deep state or the cabal or the New World Order is a small group of very powerful but very psychopathic individuals that have acquired a lot of money, a lot of technology, and a lot of information over the course of centuries.
How much power do our elected officials really have, and how much lies within something called the deep state? It's the government that exists beneath the surface, no matter who the president is or which politicians we see on TV. It's the government underneath all the stuff we learned about on Schoolhouse Rock. Basically, the deep state is the massive bureaucracy that runs a lot of the day-to-day of power. There are hundreds of thousands of people working at places like the Department of Defense, the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA, not to mention the private contractors who do a lot of the work for these departments and agencies. The vast majority of these people don't get swapped out when a new president comes in. They stay and are only partly responsible to whoever we, the people, choose to be in power. And right now, it looks like the deep state is at war with itself. Democracy, the government is supposed to be controlled by the people through our elected leaders. But as recent events show, huge swaths of the state's bureaucracy are totally unaccountable. And now both wings of the deep state are rising up and causing huge amounts of mayhem. And while in the short term, anything that puts the brakes on crazy people like Trump and Flynn is probably a good thing, the idea that the deep state can override our democratic control is incredibly worrying.
Unelected deep state operatives who defy the voters to push their own secret agendas are truly a threat to democracy. And I was so heartened when I looked. I think it's backfired. Seriously, people that don't exactly dig us and they don't exactly like me, they're fighting for us. It's an incredible, it's actually a beautiful thing. We've picked up a lot of support
Within secret societies, there can be both good and bad people, white hats and black hats. So many of these secret societies are, of course, involved in very dark practices. But there are also secret societies out there that are harboring knowledge and information and technology to keep it out of the hands of the deep state or the black hats, but the people that would do detriment with these technologies.
Some of the, I guess, very well-known elites, names I won't mention, but are on the front lobes of most watching this video, are highly involved not only in some of the slave trade aspects, but are also involved in dealing with non-terrestrials and dealing with organized crime down here on Earth and how it's related to these programs. A lot of these elite are running a lot of financial scams, drug programs to raise money for these secret programs that they have going on. And they take full advantage of this access.
Today's Democrat Party is held hostage by haters, absolute haters, left-wing haters, angry mobs, deep state radicals, and their fake news allies.
For believers, the deep state is a mysterious faction of opposition bureaucrats. In Trump's case, a shadowy cabal of Obama supporters entrenched in government, intent on bringing him down. A belief firmly held by Corey Lewandowski, Trump's former campaign manager.
He had a phone conversation with Theresa May. That phone conversation transpired in Air Force One. I believe Air Force One has a secure line of communication, particularly when he's having a conversation with a world leader.
So you think leaks are evidence of the deep state?
But no less than, of course, no less than 30 minutes after hanging up that phone call, the media was reporting on the conversation that transpired.
The so-called resistance is angry because their horrible ideas have been rejected by the American people, and it's driving them crazy. Crazy. They're the ones, honestly, that have been driven crazy.
What is this deep state conspiracy, as you see it, inside the U.S. government, determined to undermine the president?
Well, I don't think it's anything new. And I think maybe a new term and a new coined phrase when you say deep state, but I think every president and every administration at different levels have complained about
I didn't hear Barack Obama coming out and say, hey, the deep state,
well, I'll get to that if you want me to jump to that very quickly.
No, I just want to, you made an interesting point.
But I'm just saying is, but Barack Obama did complain about leaks. Every president has complained at some degree about the bureaucracy and people undermining the administration's priority, be they Democrat or Republican. But you raised a good point when you said President Obama, if I could quickly, is I think as a general proposition, I've been around Washington 40 years, including part of the deep state, because I was in the civil service at some point. I think the vast majority of individuals in the federal bureaucracy, first of all, have a point of view, and it tends not to be Republican, except for the Pentagon and Defense and so forth. And I also think that they become invested in the parochial interests of those agencies, particularly the regulatory agencies. So they put those priorities first over those of an administration. The problem for Republicans has been the following. Generally speaking, when Republicans win, they are seen as a conquering army coming in to vanquish the civil service. And I think when Democrats win, civil service see this as a liberation army coming in to say, let the thousand flowers bloom, and you do what you will. And therein is the difference, which I think has been reflected in the polls that were taken prior to Donald Trump's election, where over a quarter of the civil servants said that they would consider resigning their position if he were elected president, and 74% would support Hillary Clinton. That's the bias that exists, and it's just a reality. They don't want to talk about the deep state. They want to talk about impeachment. But here's the reality.
But I mean, a lot of people have connected deep state to impeachment.
Yeah,
so
and I will in this way as well. I've been around whistleblowers. I've been around IGs for years. In my opinion, the so-called whistleblower, if you want to talk to the impeachment, is part of a cabal, in my opinion, and the way it was, the way this complaint was written and the way the things typically go to a hotline, it suggests to me that a lawyer and a number of other people, potentially even members of the Democratic staff of the Intelligence Committee, were involved in it. That's a suspicion people have. But I'm going to put that aside for a moment, as we're talking. Yes, as we're talking about a broader issue, which is the so-called deep state. This is a romantic